Lebanon has begun deploying troops near the Israeli border to oversee a ceasefire between Israel and the militant group Hezbollah. Both sides are required to start withdrawing from the border area under the terms of the deal. The Israeli military has imposed a nighttime curfew in southern Lebanon, warning people not to return to areas where Israeli troops are still present. Earlier, thousands of displaced Lebanese had begun heading back to their homes.
Mohammed Baza surveys the damage in her village. She and her family were among the many thousands of Lebanese who rushed south to their homes as soon as they heard a ceasefire had been agreed.
We were in Beirut, but even if they gave me a castle in Beirut, I wouldn't give up my house here. Despite the destruction and sadness, and although we can't even live in our house now, we're so happy we returned home. Thank God we're all okay.
She says she'll rebuild and restart her family's life here in their home.
No, we're not going anywhere. We're staying here. I'm going to fix it up. You saw me sweeping. I'm going to clean up and stay here. We can cover the windows with plastic or something. My children are here, their schools are here, and we're not going anywhere. We feel like our soul has returned.
The Lebanese army has been returning to the area after Hezbollah moved its heavy weapons north under the terms of the truce. Nearly 1 million Lebanese fled their homes. Malak Klait reunited with relatives in their village. This was not the way she imagined her homecoming.
We never expected to return and find Kana like this. We thought we'd come back and find everything as it was, and that we'd return to our homes and see our loved ones. But we lost a lot of people. We lost so many people we love. And so many people we love lost their homes.
With their former lives devastated by months of full-scale bombardment, for many people here, it's very hard to see this as a first ray of hope.
And journalist Stella Männer joins us now from Beirut. Stella, describe the current situation in Beirut for us.
People here are really relieved. Many of them are celebrating in the streets or driving around in cars, honking. I myself have been in the southern suburbs of Beirut today, where many members of Hezbollah were driving around in motorcycles, waving big Hezbollah flags, and there was also a lot of celebratory gunfire. I also saw some residents of the southern suburbs of Beirut returning, and they were taking pictures in front of their destroyed houses. But the mood was not really sad or shocked. It was more a mood of victory and really wanting to take pictures in order to remember this historic day.
So the Lebanese army has now been deployed to the southern border. What more can you tell us about that?
The Lebanese army itself has announced that they begun to level up their forces south of Litani River. Therefore, they are moving troops from various different places in Lebanon towards the south. The Lebanese defense minister earlier said that Lebanon is also planning to deploy more soldiers in the south and scale the number up to 10,000 soldiers. The soldiers and the army there now face the very challenging task of gaining back the control over the territory and to ensure that Hezbollah is not rebuilding its forces there. The very influential Hezbollah MP Hassan Fadlallah said in an interview with Al Jazeera that Hezbollah is planning to cooperate with the Lebanese army.
And you mentioned the many displaced people. Are most of them now returning home in the south of the country?
Despite several warnings, yes, there were warnings from the Israeli army, but also from the Lebanese army saying that residents should wait with their return and not go back to the border areas. But thousands and thousands of people still went. The highway towards the south was completely blocked today with the massive traffic jams. There were people in cars that had really stocked and piled up mattresses and other belongings on the roof of their cars. It's not quite clear if they're really going back to live there, because most of the villages, or many villages down there, are heavily destroyed. There's no infrastructure left, such as electricity and water, and the winter is coming soon. But maybe some people are also just like taking a look in which state their houses are to return later.
Stella Männer in Beirut. Stella, thanks so much for that update. Randa Slim is a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute. She specialises in dialogue and post-conflict peace building, and she's joining us tonight from Dayton, Ohio. Welcome. We are a day into this ceasefire, and Lebanese civilians are returning home. Does it look like there are grounds for optimism here?
Look, the agreement has a lot of inherent vulnerabilities and is going to face many challenges, especially in this first 10 days as the Lebanese army is moving to the south to take over position in this buffer zone between the Litani River and the Blue Line. And then we are going to see gradual withdrawal of the Israeli forces over the next 60 days, and then at the same time withdrawal of Hezbollah forces and weapons. So already one of the Hezbollah parliamentarians said, we don't have weapons in that area, and we don't have fighters. We have people who belong to those villages. And so you are going to see a lot of challenges to this deal. But I think what still stands is that both sides, Israel and Hezbollah, as well as, of course, the government of Lebanon, need the deal and want the deal. And if it were not the case, we would not have had the agreement.
So would you say that this ceasefire deal has the potential to become something more permanent? And do you think Israel and Hezbollah are ready for that?
Well, again, it goes to the implementation phase and the next 60 days. And I mean, the challenge for Israel is that it's military tactical wins that it has secured over the last 2-3 months against Hezbollah. You know, they need to translate them into some kind of a political settlement, because the military option did not succeed in achieving their objective of returning their displaced citizens to the north. And for Hezbollah, I think they have severe challenges having to do with reconstituting their leadership, and especially relief and reconstruction. But it's also a challenge for the Lebanese government. The majority of people who have been displaced from the south, from the northeast, from southern suburbs of Beirut are hardcore supporters of Hezbollah. And you have whole areas in those three particular parts of Lebanon that have been decimated, and the Lebanese government does not have the resources to rebuild. It has been suffering from a major economic crisis for the last 5 years, and people have no savings to rebuild on their own. And so the question is going to be implementation of the deal and and how to deal with the challenges, especially violations by either party of the deal, and then more importantly, the next phase, which is reconstruction and relief efforts.
Benjamin Netanyahu made very clear last night that this ceasefire is a chance for Israel to rest, to replenish its army, to deal with Iran. Will Hezbollah and Iran use this pause to regroup as well?
I mean, I think the main reason for Mr. Netanyahu to go for this deal, and it has to be said that Israel is the one that pushed for this deal. And it did the same, by the way, in 2006, when 1701, Security Council Resolution 1701 was passed to end that war between Hezbollah and Lebanon in 2006. We are encountering the same situation here. Israel pushed for this, and partly because, in my opinion, the major issue is exhaustion of their army and needing to replenish. Hezbollah will also need to replenish, will need to reconstitute their leadership. Their command structure, military and political, has pretty much wiped out by assassinations, by these pagers, by all this, campaign that Israel has mounted against them for the last since October 8th of last year.
You mentioned Lebanon's government. How much does this ceasefire depend on Lebanon's government, and is it functional enough to help hold this together? I mean, there hasn't been a president for more than 2 years, has there?
It depends on the Lebanese government because it depends on the Lebanese army to come in, and there are responsibilities to monitor, to basically, monitor this buffer zone to make sure that no other Hezbollah forces are no longer operational there. So, and the Lebanese army cannot deploy these kind of forces, cannot engage in these kind of or assume these responsibilities without a political consensus at the level of the government. There is a caretaker government that has signed off on the deal. You have the Speaker of the Parliament, who was anointed as the representative of Hezbollah in the negotiation mediated by the United States, who also has signed off on the deal. Going forward, I think the political paralysis in Lebanon needs to be unstuck in order to proceed forward with implementation of the deal, safeguarding the deal in the long term, but more importantly, relief and reconstruction efforts. And it starts with the election of a president. As you put it, there hasn't been a president for more than 2 years now, and the formation of a new cabinet that will be responsible for overseeing this reconstruction effort going forward and putting the country on the path of economic recovery.
We're going to take a quick listen to what the US envoy Amos Hochstein said last night, and we'll come right back to you.
This is a moment of opportunity for Lebanon to reassert its sovereignty across all of its territory. And I truly hope that this is not just another end of a cycle of violence, but it's the end period of all the violence for many, many decades.
A moment of opportunity for Lebanon. Would you agree with that?
Definitely, it's a moment of opportunity. They had a similar opportunity in 2000 when Israel decided to withdraw unilaterally from the southern Lebanon, which it had occupied since 1985. And then that opportunity was missed primarily because the Syrian government, the Syrian regime that was pretty much in control of the politics of the country at the time, wanted to keep Hezbollah armed and wanted to keep Hezbollah as a deterrent to Israel for its own security. I think now this is the second opportunity facing the country for the state institution to reassert control over the use of violence, over the means of power, over the means, over arms, over the borders, over the airport, over the port. And I hope that they will not miss it, because I don't think this opportunity will repeat itself again.
Randa Slim, Senior Fellow at the Middle East Institute, thank you so much for your time and for your insights.
Thank you very much.
And for more on this, we can speak to Hanin Ghaddar, a Middle East expert with a focus on Lebanon at the Washington Institute. Hanin, welcome to DW. Thanks so much for your time today. So far, Israel hasn't shown that much interest in diplomatic solutions. Could we be seeing a shift here in Israel's stance towards the conflict in the region?
Good evening. I think, yes, you're right. There are different factors contributing to this shift. One is that the Biden administration is leaving, and Trump has already told Netanyahu that he wants no wars. He doesn't want to deal with any war when he comes to office. The other factor is that the Biden's administration has been using all sorts of pressure in order to finalize at least the ceasefire agreement in Lebanon, even because Gaza is very complicated, but Lebanon was possible, so that's then. But I think really what really pushed it at the end is that all the most of the important conditions that the Israelis put in the agreement, the draft of the agreement, Hezbollah accepted via the Lebanese government. So when you have all these conditions and eventually Hezbollah says yes and accepts everything, how can you say no? This is not something that might be available in the future. So all these factors contributed, I think, to this shift. It might not be the same in Gaza because Gaza is a different story.
Yeah, I mean, as agreed in the ceasefire deal, Lebanon is now deploying its army to the southern border. So let's talk about the border. How difficult is it going to be to secure the border with Israel?
It is possible. And it's not a matter of the army's capability. It's a matter of political decision, because the army is capable of doing that and has always been capable of doing that. The difference in that 2006, the army didn't do its job because there was no political decision by the government and the political establishment back then. If we move to a new stage where we have a new president and a new government that is sovereign enough to give the green light to the army to do its job, they can. So it really depends on this. It also depends, and I think it will be empowered by the presence of the Americans in the monitoring committee. The mechanism is different this time. So it's not a matter of capability. Border security has always been, especially between Lebanon and Israel, has always been a matter of sovereignty. And a political decision will enable the army to do its job in the south. However, in other parts of the country where they have to monitor the Lebanese-Syrian border, that's a different story. I don't have the numbers to do both. So we need to focus on the south first and then deal with the border to stop smuggling of weapons from Iran to Hezbollah.
Right. What about Iran? I mean, do you see Tehran using this opportunity to try to rearm and re-strengthen Hezbollah?
Of course, they've been trying since the beginning of the war. They've been sending trucks of weapons. They don't have the cash, but they do have the weapons. So they will try to send trucks of weapons. The Israelis have been striking them. The Israelis destroyed the tunnel, the main tunnel that connects Syria to Lebanon via the Bekaa, the Qusayr from Damascus to the Bekaa Valley. And yesterday, to the last day, they were hitting the other borders. There is a very serious effort in order to stop it. However, it's not just about like military operations. It's not going to stop Iran because they will keep trying. It's again, like monitoring the border, making sure that the Lebanese army, the Lebanese government, the international community, they're all focused on monitoring this border, and also the effort will extend to making sure that the next Lebanese government maintains this as a priority. So it's not just Iran will always try. However, Iran will not be able to send money. They don't have the cash this time for compensations and reconstruction. In 2006, the money flew from Iran in big bags. I was there, and it was amazing how immediately bags of US dollars flew from Iran every day. This time, it's not going to happen. The Gulf also is not interested in reconstruction as long as Hezbollah is in the picture. So there is a lot of problems with the financial situation, with the reconstruction and compensations. But the arms is a different story. They will keep trying sending arms.
OK. Hanin Ghaddar with the Washington Institute, thank you so much for your time. We'll have to end it there, but we do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.